Hey guys, Jay here. As always, I'm going to offer you some recommendations and some modifications for ways in which you might adapt our CrossFit Ninja Spin workouts for kids. We're going to take a closer look at Tuesday the 25th of January. We've got a great little couplet here, a 21-15-9 of devil's press and knees to elbows with some dumbbells. So it's £35 for the men and £25 for the women if you decide to do those weights. Nice short and sharp one. And I think my first consideration is that actually, short and sharp workouts are really appropriate for children, particularly if you're doing them in an affiliate setting. It gives you longer to work on some skill development, but it also gives you longer to hit the game. One of the key tenets of CrossFit Kids is that it's got to be fitness paired with fun, and often that fun is the game you play after the workout. So if you are hitting this workout at an affiliate, you've got a load of time to have some great fun with the games there. Taking in some other considerations, some things that I looked at was I wanted the children to go through that sort of full range of motion of the burpee from the devil's press. So hitting the deck, getting back up and jumping. I also wanted to preserve the stimulus of the press, the overhead press that we get from that devil's press. And we're not going to do a devil's press with the children. I think that where we are sort of trying to train them to have that angry gorilla back, I think sometimes with something like a devil's press, our lumbar curve can have a slightly deviated position, which isn't necessarily unsafe, but maybe not something we'd necessarily use for our children just yet. And I also wanted to preserve the stimulus of being in the hang, developing that grip strength. So for our advanced kids, I've got 21-15-9 of burpees. And then I've got two options here really, depending on where your children are at. I've got a dumbbell snatch, that's an alternating dumbbell snatch. And you could change the reps to 22, 16, 10 if you want to give them an even number. I personally don't think it matters too much. Or alternatively, you could get that press stimulus, that overhead stimulus with the push press. So we've still got a nice quarter extremity movement, but we're still getting that stimulus of that nice overhead finishing position. And then hanging knee raise. So they're going to need a lot of grip strength to hang from the bar for those 45 reps in total across the workout. So those children that do attack this advanced kids workout would have definitely been through those bar hanging progressions a few times and be able to hang for a relatively considerable amount of time. As always with some of our gymnastics movements, I would suggest that working strict positions before you work dynamic, so with a kip. But if they can do strict hanging knee raises and they can show control there and they have a kip, it's absolutely appropriate for them to maybe do some kipping, hanging knee raises, even pushing towards those knees to elbows if your children have the capacity and the skill level to do that. You'll have to apologise that my colour coding isn't quite on point this week. My children stole my whiteboard pens to write their own workouts, and I can't find my blue marker that I usually use for the less experienced workout. So for our less experienced children, I think just being able to break up the reps is an important approach to have. And I also think that not giving them too much volume in one hit, so they can have some natural breaks from moving through different exercises. So 5 burpees, so we've got that same burpee stimulus that we get from the devil's press. I've put shoulder press here, so we're considering that our less experienced children might not necessarily be ready for a push press. Quite probably they might be, so you could quite easily change that to 5 push press with dumbbells. And then remember, we use dumbbells so the children don't have to worry about moving their bodies around the bar, and there's just a straight line of action where they're not having to move their head out of the way. We choose dumbbells for that reason. And again, those hanging knee raise, but alternatively, if they're not ready or showing control in that hanging knee raise, it'd be absolutely appropriate just to use some bar hanging progressions. It could be hang for 10 seconds, or it could be 5 hand releases or 3 traverses across the bar, or 3 hanging hip taps or monkey hangs, or 3 round the world rotations. Again, you're only limited by your imagination and creativity with this workout. For our no equipment option, I've put this here as an AMRAP. So AMRAP for quality, and again, the quality for both of those workouts is you keep going so as long as the children's movement doesn't degrade, but also so you don't see them losing focus. They're not forgetting what they're doing, their attention isn't wandering, they're still preserving that quality of movement and attention and focus throughout the workout. So it's not just movement for quality, it's also that their focus and attention is on point as well. So for our no equipment, we've got an AMRAP for quality, and that is in a given time. So as long as they're moving well and showing that focus, up to about 10 minutes, I would say. Remember, this is a short, sharp workout that we have. 5 burpees, 10 to 20 second handstand hold. So we're getting that overhead stimulus there. And then 5 sit-ups or V-ups, depending on where your children are at in terms of their progressions with those that sort of flexion in the middle. You could quite easily do some accessory work at the end of this, so it could be some bar hanging progressions or some handstand progressions that you've seen in previous videos. Today I'm going to have a video of my children going through this workout. You're going to see my son going through the advanced option, and my daughter is going to be going through the less experienced option as an AMRAP. Have fun with these workouts, guys.
For the less experienced workout, my daughter did this workout, and in the end we did about 10 rounds, which seemed about the perfect amount for her in terms of the quality of her movement and her ability to maintain concentration. Whenever my children do burpees, that's one exercise I really do encourage them to push the pace. One thing on the press is that I really focus on with my children is that finish position and holding up for a second or two just at the end. Hold that final position before they come down. When my daughter was doing the hanging knee raises, one thing we tried to was to stop her swinging so much. So I gave her a little target just in front to bring her feet down towards, as she's pointing it down, a bit like a hollow position. So like as I mentioned with my daughter's workout, whenever there's burpees, I really encourage my children to push the pace. This is somewhere where, I do look for an element of form, but I want them to increase the intensity here. Now with a dumbbell snatch, we played around with alternating the dumbbell before we did the workout, and it just seemed to slow my son down a bit too much, having to swap every time, and he was swapping at his waist height. So we just said, right, let's just do 5 and 5 on each hand, or 4 and 4, and then there was always one left over with the odd number, but that was okay. Now on the whiteboard you can see that I put hanging knee raises. Now my son is quite an experienced gymnast. He does competitive gymnastics, so he was more than able to do all of the 21, 15, 9 with strict knees to elbows. Maybe except on the last one, he got a bit fatigued, he might have missed one. But just pick a height where your children are hanging and they're raising their knees up as high as they can. The two things I really focus on with the push press is the finish position and also not moving their feet too much. Sometimes my son has the tendency to drive so hard that he loses his foot position slightly. I do talk about the dip, but it's less of a concern than the finish position overhead and whether his feet are staying in the right position throughout the movement, for me at this stage.